Hello all you new people entering the wild and wonderful crypto world. We are back with a special episode looking through the magnifying glass at this cryptographic world we live in. Welcome to the 7th episode of the Inside Crypto podcast. This episode was recorded on September 8th, 2021. Today we are joined by myself because it's been such a crazy week we couldn't manage to get anyone on. Don't worry, we still have managed to talk about some thought-provoking ideas. Today our topic is how to get into crypto. This is definitely the episode you want to forward to the nagging friend or family member. You know the one I'm talking about, who's always asking you to explain Bitcoin and Ethereum. We talk about choosing an exchange, security measures, and what to do once you are settled. In this week's hot news, we of course talk about the flash crash that happened this week, why Solana did so well despite the crash, DeFi regulation, investors entering DeFi and their worries, Glassnodes on-chain analysis of the week. From today, we're going to be adding time codes into both videos and the podcast, so have a look at those if you're looking for specific content. Thanks everyone for listening, and don't forget to tune in next week where we interview another member of the team and get their insights into their fascinating world of crypto. Hello all you newcomers and welcome to today's episode of the Inside Crypto podcast entitled Crypto What Now? Today's episode is going to be a super special one because it is just me. Cue the bad music, but don't worry, even though it's just me, it's gonna be fun because unfortunately, due to circumstances, people are traveling, people are busy, so I couldn't get anyone on. We're supposed to have a few different guests. It's kind of cool. None of them really said no, so what's gonna happen is these guests will be on in anteceding weeks. I was gonna say preceding weeks. So what this means is that finally you'll be able to hear more about me and who I am and how I got involved into crypto and my background, and maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't, but just bear with me for this week. Next week we'll be back to more exciting people who work at the moon and their specialized knowledge. So don't worry about it. And as always, before we get into anything, I've got to plug our website, I've got to plug our products. So as if you didn't know, I work at Amun Tokens, which is a token company. And you can find us at www.amun.com. We have two wonderful tokens, DFI and DMX. If you don't know anything about them, they're on the first episode. DFI captures the best 8 tokens in the DeFi space, and DMX captures also the best tokens for momentum on exchanges. Don't quote me on that, but these are really two awesome products, and definitely something you could add to your portfolio. But before we get into anything, let's talk about myself. So just like in the regular show, I'm just going to introduce myself. So my full name, you've heard people say Crian or Crian, but my name is Crian. I am originally from South Africa. I used to live in America, Ireland, Korea, and now I live in Taiwan, which is where I'm filming this episode from. I studied in America, and then I did my master's in Ireland, and then after Ireland, at that time, the European economy was kind of flagging, so I had to get a job, and I moved to Korea. From Korea, I came to Taiwan, which is where I have been, will be 13 years tomorrow. Can you believe that? And I love Taiwan. I love being able to speak a second language. I love living here. And how I got into crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you can see our podcast background behind me, is probably about a few years ago. You've heard this on previous episodes. I've talked about crypto and how I got into crypto, but here's the full story. A few years ago, I was Googling around. I'd always known what Bitcoin was. I mean, everybody knew because I'm a technology person. At some point, I will post a picture of my computer. You guys will see I'm like one of those geeky people who has RGB on their computers. And I have an RGB keyboard. I have a big 4K monitor, Razer Chroma speakers. Yeah, I've got the full setup in my house. So I knew what Bitcoin was. I never thought about getting into it. And then probably about a few years ago, I spoke to a best friend of mine, Hans, and I said, hey, there's this thing called Ethereum, and we get to use our computers in order to make money. And because Taiwan's electricity cost is very cheap, it is 0.04 cents, American cents per kilowatt, which is pretty cheap because I heard in America, different places, it varies from 0.07 to 0.12. It worked out pretty well. So we built a machine, we started mining Ethereum, and when we started mining Ethereum was $70 for one Ethereum. And we had one rig with one card, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then our rig broke down, and we stopped and we rebuilt it again. And I think that is the time that I started saying, oh, I should use the Ethereum and maybe invest into other stuff. And I got into other cryptocurrencies, which was very, very cool. So that is who I am. If you have any questions about it, you can always email me, Crian, Crian, @amun.com. If you have feedback about the episode or anything I said, I'm always happy to hear and listen to get feedback, and we can change things. I was actually just working on that today. My boss, Ronald, who will be on the podcast episode 9, if he has time that week, he was like, we should figure out where the podcast is going. So I was making a list of things I'd need for the podcast, where to take it, maybe getting a permanent co-host as well, which would be really cool. But I mean, these things, I don't want to get too off topic, because others I could be blubbering on about podcasts and podcasting for a while. So today's episode is going to be about getting into crypto, because I am not an expert in crypto. So let me make the disclaimer now. Anything I say in this episode is not financial advice. I have to say that every YouTuber, every podcaster has to say it. This is all informational. Do your own research, figure out what you want to do with your money, and take it from there. So what am I going to say? Yes, that is a very good question. So I was going to say today's episode is about getting into crypto. So you've heard about crypto from your friends. You've heard about it from people like me. You've listened to this podcast. Maybe you're like, okay, I have a little bit of money, because you don't need a lot of money to get into crypto. When I think I bought my first crypto, I spent $30. That's about it. I mean, definitely is a lot of money to some people, but could even hypothetically spend less than that. So today I'm going to talk about how you would get into crypto. I'm going to talk about Binance, because Binance is the place I have used, but there are a bunch of exchanges, especially if you live in the US. There's Crian, Gemini, and Coinbase. Coinbase is available in quite a few countries at the moment, so Coinbase is another good example. But today I'm going to use Binance, but pretty much the method and the stuff I'm going to talk about today could be applicable, not as could be, it's definitely applicable to a lot of different places. If you don't have any of these places available, I would say check your country. You probably have a local exchange available, but do some research in this regard, because like in South Africa, for example, recently one of the exchanges run by two brothers, they took everybody's crypto and ran away. So make sure if you are opening up an account on an exchange, make sure it's a safe exchange. Make sure you've Googled it, checked the reviews, YouTubed it, and done your due diligence. All right, once you decide on your exchange, and before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this video, and I'm going to show you a video that I got from Binance, and it sort of goes through the process for how you would register a Binance account. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, I apologize. You're just going to have to wait a few seconds while I switch backgrounds. And let's turn on the Binance video. The Binance video is on. I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller. So if you're watching the video, you'll be able to see, like, this is how you'd register on Binance. I'm not going to follow the way this is going. This is sort of like additional information if you are watching the video, that you can just follow along and see, okay, what am I talking about? And while this video is going on, I'm going to talk about how I planned, or logically how I plan to explain this. So once you decide an exchange, you will need to go through KYC. No, not KFC, which is always what comes to mind when people talk about KYC. KYC means know your customer. For example, in Taiwan, I need to provide my Taiwan ID card or passport, full name, cell phone number, and email address. This doesn't vary in big exchanges, but the amount of verification and what you need to do does. Going back to Binance again, because this is my main exchange, I'm only intermediately verified under their new system. To become fully verified, I would need to provide my full name and provide a proof or a bill that basically states who I am and where I live. Okay, so when you've actually KYC'd an exchange, it allows you to increase your withdrawal limits, your deposit limits. So when you're selling stuff on the exchange, you want to take money back into your native currency. This is what verification does. In some exchanges, you cannot even begin to start trading unless you have done KYC. All right, so moving on. Like I said before, you don't need to be verified, but this does affect how much money you can usually put into exchanges. Once you are verified, even before you do that, you can start to do investing. There are tons of YouTube channels and podcasts on what you should invest in, what coins are good for your first coin. I'm not going to be selling anybody coins today. You should do your research, figure out what is best for you, what works for your portfolio, what works for your financial situation, and then just go with that. Alright, so my voice is becoming very dry, because usually when I do this podcast, I don't have to talk this much. So during the podcast today, listeners, apologize because I have to drink some water, so my voice doesn't become too croaky and terrible. Alright, so once you have set up your account once you've done KYC. Now, KYC can take different times to verify. Like when I did KYC with Binance, it took a very long time because when I tried to verify, Binance just refused to accept my Taiwanese ID because, I mean, you can see I don't look at Taiwanese, right? I'm South African. So they had to reconcile the Taiwanese ID with who I am. Eventually, it got to work. It took about a week or so. But once that is done and you've decided on your exchange and you are verified, then you need to decide, you need to secure your account. So, I mean, this is 2021. You've seen the hacks this year. You've seen the hacks last year. You've heard about the Mt. Gox hack a long time ago. Crypto is just sort of in its infancy, so hacks could happen, might happen, will happen. So what you need to do is do your best in order to be safe. So in order to be safe, what you need to do, I mean, the very basic step is you need to set up your email and you need to set up what is called 2FA or two-factor authentication. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch the videos. I'm going to show you Binance Secure video. And we're going to turn that off. We're going to turn Binance Secure video on. So again, if you're watching the video, you'll be able to see suggestions that what Binance makes for people who want to be safe, right? You want to make sure, limit the chance of somebody stealing your money. So two-factor authentication, basically what that involves is when you want to withdraw money to another exchange, to another wallet, if you want to sell your Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano or Solana into your native currency, so in my case would be Taiwanese dollars, right? I'm going to put those Taiwanese dollars into my bank account, right? I would need some form of two-factor authentication. And if I'm not mistaken, at the moment, on Binance, you have to have two-factor authentication, otherwise you can just not withdraw your funds. So if you're watching the video at the moment, it says Google Authentication. There are a bunch of apps. I use Google Authenticator. I also use Authy, which is another app. You just Google two-factor authentication apps and find the one that best works for you. I like Authy because it's on my iPad and on my cell phone. So if something happens to my cell phone, the codes are still on my iPad. So the way two-factor authentication works is when you select the option and activate it, you're going to come up with a QR code on your screen. So if it's on your iPad or your cell phone, and use something else to scan that, and it'll give you a code. So every 60 seconds or 45 seconds or 30 seconds, I can't quite remember, it will give you a code so that when you want to withdraw money, you need to put in a code sent to your email, you need to put in a code from your Google Authenticator, and then you can finally withdraw your money. It's actually just showing that on the video right now at the moment. And an extra step that I would highly encourage is you get a YubiKey or security key, which is what I have. What a security key is, it's a little USB device that if you want to withdraw money on Binance, on Coinbase, you have to plug it into a USB slot on your computer. And that is the only way anybody can basically take money out of your account, is if that security key is in the USB port on your computer. An even secure way, but I'm not suggesting it for the target of this video, which is people like me, people just getting into crypto, people who just want to have an easy crypto existence, is a cold wallet, which is like Ledger, like Trezor. Basically what it is, again, is sort of like a USB device, but instead of your crypto being stored on a software wallet or an exchange, it's stored on your physical USB device. And then the only way for somebody to steal your crypto is literally actually to break into your house and look for that particularly small USB and take it from you. And then they have to break the encryption on that USB in order to get access to your funds. All right, so that is two-factor authentication. One more thing I do want to mention is, because on this video they mention SMS authentication. So again, if you've watched the news in the last few weeks or so, T-Mobile announced in America, so if you're not living in America, this could still happen to you. They got hacked. And what happened is they stole people's phone numbers, they stole I don't think they stole financial information, but they stole driver's license and that sort of stuff. So what that means is, if you're a hacker, I could call up, if I'm a hacker, I should say, I could call up T-Mobile and say, hi, my name is Tom Jones. I live at 46 California Way. My social security number is this. My driver's license is this. I lost my SIM card. Can you send me your SIM card? And so they send your SIM card or Tom Jones' SIM card to this hacker, who then clones your phone and then intercepts your SMS authentication codes, and then hijacks your account and your crypto account. So I just did that very recently. I disabled SMS on all my important financial information. And so basically the only way for somebody to take money out of my account is they would need to access my email, they need to get my authentication code, and they need to access my YubiKey. So that is the 3 ways or triple factor authentication, which is how you want to be. You have to be safe. Now, I know a lot of people are going to think, okay, it's not going to happen to me. It might happen to you. Personally speaking, I have been hacked 3, 4, 5 times in my life. PayPal, someone hacked into my email. I've had people spend my money. So now I'm very, very careful. I only use a certain bank, and I have what I call a burner debit card. So for transactions that I feel not safe about, particularly crypto transactions, I physically go to the bank, put money into my debit card, and then purchase crypto that way. I don't purchase crypto with my credit cards at all. Just to be safe, but that's just me because I worry about somebody going on a spending spree and going buck wild with my money. And when I first got hacked, it was a pain to get the money back, let me tell you. I think it took about 3 months here in Taiwan. This happened in America at one time. It took about the same time, I think maybe even longer. So you really want to be careful with securing your crypto, securing your account. A common piece of advice is don't put your crypto on centralized exchanges for too long. If you're a regular person, I would say you're fine. What you want to do once you settle, once you've got yourself a portfolio, is you want to divide your coins between different places, software wallets. So I have my coins in Binance. I have some in another place called Nexo. I have some in another place called the Atomic Wallet. I have some in another place called MyCoin. And I have some in a friend's wallet as well, just to be like quadruple safe. So that no matter what happens, not all my money is sitting in one basket. You know, like that old English expression goes, don't put your eggs in one basket. So that's always a good thing. So this is pretty much all I wanted to say about being safe, starting off in crypto. If you like this video, if you like this part of the podcast, what I might do is actually cut it up and then make it onto a separate podcast or separate video. If you're interested in Coinbase or in Gemini or in Crian, I could also do a podcast or a video about that. Please let me know. You can tweet at Amun Tokens. You can come to our Telegram or our Discord for that as well. And let me know. I'd be happy to make the video. One other thing I did want to mention, if you are thinking about a non-centralized exchange to keep your crypto, common solution is something called MetaMask, MetaMask. It's a very safe solution. What's going to happen when you open up your MetaMask, it'll give you a seed phrase, 12 words. So it makes it very, very safe that you have to remember, write it down, and that's what keeps your crypto. And people say that is the best way because you have ownership of that, as opposed to putting your crypto on an exchange where if something happens to the exchange, your money is gone. Anyway, this is it for this part of the video. I hope you liked it. So what's going to happen right now is usually we would talk about the news and we talk about 3 different things. But today, because we have the extra time, we're going to be talking about 5 news items. And let me tell you, it has been a crazy 24 to 36 hours, depending where you live. In Taiwan right now, it is September 8th, 2021, and things are exciting. So let's get started. So I'm going to disable this video for the second, the Binance Secure video, and give me a few seconds while I switch over to video so that you guys can actually see what I'm looking at, and you can ignore the scripted video that I have there. Okay, so the first thing we are gonna look at today, let me activate the video feed. So again, on the podcast you can't quite see this, but what we're looking at is coin market cap, and we're just seeing what happened. So if you didn't know, I mean, when I went to bed last night on September 7th, Bitcoin dropped from like 52,000 to like 43,000 super quickly. It's kind of recovered, but it's about $46,365 at the time of recording this video, which is about 9 or 2 p.m. Ethereum, basically, if you're new to crypto as well, when Bitcoin drops, when Ethereum drops, it takes pretty much all the market with it. The only coin that is not suffering so much is Solana, but that is another story. So Bitcoin is at 46,000, Ethereum is at 3,400. And I wanted to show this video before we start talking about the news, which of course is going to talk about the Bitcoin flash crash that happened last night. And we're going to go into the news about why this journalist thought it happened. I'm going to try not to give my opinion because my place here is just to sort of give you guys the news, let you guys make up your own minds why you think this happened. Is it a time for you to be buying Bitcoin now? Do you want to wait? Is Bitcoin going to go down further? Is Bitcoin going to climb up? You guys decide. You should really watch the video though. I will make sure the video is linked in the podcast. I'm actually might even upload this as the first video. And let's see how it goes. So let's switch up to the first video. The first video is from Forbes.com and is written by Jonathan Ponciano, of course, Forbes staff. It is published September 7th, 2021, 11:50 a.m. So I'm going to read a little bit from it and then we'll talk about it. It says, the cryptocurrency market posted staggering losses Tuesday as a wave of selling pummeled the prices of nearly every single coin, unraveling the gains priced in by a retail trading mania ahead of El Salvador's first day accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. The value of the world's cryptocurrencies plunged to a low of about $1.9 trillion by 11:15 Eastern Time on Tuesday, nearly 15% less than 24 hours prior, and reflecting a loss of more than $410 billion, according to crypto data site CoinMarketCap. Heading up market losses, the price of Bitcoin dipped 15% less than 43,000, the lowest price in nearly 3 weeks, before quickly paring some of the losses and settling at about 46,810 by 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Meanwhile, Ether, Binance Coin, and Cardano's 88 plunged between 13 and 18% a week, while Solana was the only token posting an increase in value, climbing 8% after a stunning run-up of nearly 36%. So, I'm not going to keep reading all of this. I mean, others, this would just become a reading the news podcast, which is what you guys are not here for. So, I don't have this available at the moment because I was already absorbing a lot of the news about this morning. What I heard, and I apologize for people watching the video, you're seeing all my Taiwanese sort of adverts from Carrefour, but people suggested that this was due to shorts, and again, this is more complicated than what I want to get into for this podcast and this video. This basically happened on Bybit and Huobi, where a lot of Bitcoin selling happened, and so that drove the price down. People suggested it was a whale. Somebody just wanted to unload. Whale, if you don't know, is a person who holds a lot of a particular cryptocurrency. So somebody unloaded 200 Bitcoin maybe at one time, and and that drove the price down. So there are a lot of different reasons. We don't actually know quite what happened yet, but this is just what people think. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, maybe it's time for you to buy some Bitcoin. Again, this is just my opinion. I bought Bitcoin because yesterday was Bitcoin Day. El Salvador, a country in South America, legalized Bitcoin, and you'll see lots of videos about that. The president of El Salvador gave everybody $30 of Bitcoin. And so yesterday was like Bitcoin Day, and I bought $30 of Bitcoin, to be in, I forgot what is the English word for that, like where you and somebody do something at the same time. Symbolic, I don't know what it is, but anyway, just to sort of support people. I think it's good that a country is moving towards using Bitcoin. Anyway, that is the Bitcoin news. If you are a Bitcoin holder, don't worry too much. I was worried. I'm okay now. I'm positive about the market, but again, not financial advice. All right, so we're going to move on to the second story that I have prepared for you guys for today. The second story is, of course, about Solana and why Solana did not tank with all the other cryptos. So this is on Bloomberg. Solana's Sol token weathers the crypto tumble sparked by Bitcoin. Why did I say sparkle? By Joanna Ossinger, September 8th, 2021, published at 12:44 p.m. GMT. Sol wrote out 300 billion fall in overall crypto market value. Optimism for Solana spurred quadrupling in Sol in the past 30 days. So again, I'm going to read the beginning for you. The sudden plunge in Bitcoin dragged the cryptocurrency world into a sea of red, but there was a key holder, Solana's Sol token. Solana averted a big drawdown over the past 24 hours, underlining investor interest in the argument that it is linked blockchain. Solana is a potential long-term rival for Ethereum, currently the most used network for applications like decentralized finance and digital collectibles. I have a theory, and a lot of people have said this. Solana's written this out just because, Solana is doing really well in terms of NFTs. We talked about this on our NFT episode, so you should definitely go back and listen to that. Solana also does a lot more transactions than Ethereum, and there's definitely a lot of uptake, a lot of community behind it. So I mean, that's why they've done well. I don't think anything is beyond that. So let's see how it goes. This article doesn't talk about too much else beyond Solana. It's quite short. It just mentions what Solana's done. I mean, again, at the end of the podcast, like if you've ever listened to a podcast, if you click on the show notes, I'll have links to all these articles so you can read them for yourself. You don't have to trust my opinion. You can just read it for yourself and see. I mean, was Crian actually talking about a real thing? This is the Solana article. I'm positive about Solana. I mean, I've been trying to buy an NFT for the last 10 days. I tried to buy one on Ethereum last week. Gas prices are still crazy. Gas prices got really crazy with the drop last night. They still haven't recovered. Solana gas prices are definitely much cheaper, but NFTs on Solana, at least the ones that I looked at, were still pretty expensive. I looked early last week or late last week, and I mean the NFTs ranged from in US dollars. Jesus Christ, like $5,000-$6,000 for an NFT, and I definitely, if I had $5,000-$6,000, oh my god, I would be a totally different person. Anyway, so let's move on to our third news story for today. Third news story, of course, is about crypto regulation. Senator Warren takes aim at DeFi services, citing lack of oversight. By Tim Freeze. This is on The Tokenist, published in September 7th, 2021. When it comes to crypto regulation, the debate is now seemingly somewhere between a total ban and regulatory inevitability. Blockchain-based decentralized finance is widely recognized by some within the banking sector as an existential threat. As highlighted in an article by the New York Times, reacting to their concerns, regulatory bodies are starting to send feelers on how to best respond. So, we talked about this before. If you didn't listen to our third episode where we had our research lead Ellie on, and he talked about the crypto bill that was eventually passed. And Senator Warren is a Democrat and somebody I like despite all of this. And some people argue that, regulation is good for cryptocurrency. I'm kind of agree with that. But at the same time, you don't want too much regulation where it sort of stifles innovation. And Ellie said it as well. He said that, if things get very heavily regulated, what might happen is you might see a lot of crypto innovation move to Canada, move to Europe, move to other parts of the world, which would be a shame for America. So hopefully that doesn't happen. And this is kind of unfortunate. I mean, DeFi definitely has its risks. And there are rug pulls, there are hacks. There are bad things that happen in DeFi, and people do lose their money, which is, that's unfortunate. I don't want people to lose their money. But regulation could sort of legitimize things, and it could sort of create a space where DeFi projects and people working in DeFi and people working in crypto feel safe. So yes, the thing that I'm doing, the product that I'm making is legal. I don't need to feel stressed out. I don't need to feel pressure. So maybe that is something. Alright, excuse me for a moment while I drink some water and re-energize my throat. Alright, so that is the DeFi story and regulation story. What do you guys think about regulation? If you're watching the video, please leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Email me, Telegram, Discord. We'd love to hear what you guys think about regulation. Is regulation good? Is regulation bad? What is the regulation happening in your individual country? How safe do you feel about purchasing crypto? All of this would be really, really useful information, something we could base a future show on at some point. So we're going to move on to our fourth story. Regulation holds back investors from plunging into DeFi. This is a story from Euromoney. DeFi is not a strategic asset allocation for mainstream investors yet, but big gains on crypto and now high yields are drawing in the front runners. In financial markets, regulation is the key driver of institutional adoption. Regulation most directly impacts banks that play the key intermediary role, on one side issuers and manufacturers of investment products, who are closely regulated, and on the other, investors and end buyers that are less constrained, but that regulation is meant to protect. Participants in this fast-growing field of decentralized finance talk about institutional money flooding into this new asset class in search of capital gains and income. They are getting ahead of themselves. So, why I chose this story for today's segment was basically just this. I know lots of people who are interested in crypto, people in Taiwan, people in America, people in South Africa. They are in crypto, but they are, they're worried. They don't want to fully sort of enjoy the benefits of crypto. They've heard about DeFi, but again, they're worried about losing their money. I think that is a serious problem crypto has is a lack of education, is a lack of trust. That's because people don't understand how it works. It's way too complicated, and crypto sites, crypto platforms, crypto wallets make things way too difficult. It's not easy to get into crypto. It's not easy to purchase tokens or purchase coins. And that is something even at Amun we want to change. We want people to say it's easy for us to purchase our tokens and feel confident about the things that they have purchased. I want that. I want more people to embrace crypto because, like we talked about on previous episodes, I think it is the only way for people my age, people in their late 30s, people in their early 30s, to have some kind of financial future that is not driven by the stock market or inflation or driven by world economies and is sort of less varied, even though crypto is varied. I mean, Jesus Christ, losing $10,000 in a day is varied, but there's just that single variable. Again, this is just my opinion. So it's something I hope, and this goes back to regulation, that maybe if things get more regulated, it'll be easier for people to get into, and maybe people will feel more comfortable getting into crypto. Or if crypto companies and organizations and wallets and software makers make things more accessible in terms of the UI, in terms of the processes, and make things more understandable. Because even with me, with my somewhat basic knowledge of crypto, I still struggle sometimes. Like going back to my purchasing my NFT story, I was trying to purchase my NFT and I saw the price of gas and on MetaMask, right? And I talked about this in the first segment that it's a good software wallet. It gives you an option to set your gas. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So when it was $45 for a $15 NFT, I'm like, okay, let me just set it lower and that should work. And then when I set it lower, MetaMask said, oh, there's a chance that your transaction won't even go through. You'll just lose your money. I'm like, what? Sorry, my nose is killing me, but I could just possibly edit out this segment. So that was not understandable at all. I put this question on Reddit and people were like, what? Where is this message? I should have actually taken a screenshot of this thing at the time that I did that. So anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's move on to the final story of today. The final story is from Glassnode. If you don't know who Glassnode is, they're on Twitter. They release a lot of on-chain analytics about Bitcoin, about pretty much everything else involved in cryptocurrency. And so this was before the crash. As you can see, the story was on September 6th, 2021. Bitcoin market shows continued strength as on-chain volumes indicate a growing dominance and stickiness of institutional transaction sizes and capital inflows. The Bitcoin market has continued to power higher, breaking out of last week's consolidation to reach new multi-month highs. Prices traded up from the weekly low of 46,562 to reach a high of 51,838. Miners take profits off the table. The Bitcoin mining market continues to recover after half of the hash power came offline during the Great Migration out of China. The 14-day medium hash rate has recovered to 128 EH. I forgot what it must be exahashes per second, which is approximately 29% below the all-time high. Alright, so miners are back in Bitcoin, which is always good. And it talks about BTC and CAPEX and OPEX. And talks about BTC income per hash. These are all very technical metrics that I'm not going to get into because, honestly, I don't think they're important for people like us. And it talks about miner balances. And this is all about Bitcoin transaction size on the rise. All right, it says a key theme and the characteristic of 2021 to 2022, 2020 to 2021 market cycle has been the increase in institutional size capital. This trend is increasingly visible on chain, and even after 50% correction in May, appears to be relatively sticky. So what that means is, and if you've thought about getting into Bitcoin but you haven't gotten it yet, is institutions are getting in. So when you think of institution, you probably think of university, but what institution actually means is big banks, financial institution, hedge funds, capital funds. people who are buying large amounts of Bitcoin to keep on their balance sheet. And we already know, like, a big company that has Bitcoin on its balance sheet is MicroStrategy, headed by Michael Saylor, and he's always in the news. Cathie Wood's ARK, they have Bitcoin. Grayscale, Bitcoin Trust is another big holder of Bitcoin. So more and more organizations are getting into Bitcoin, which is why if you do your research and you look at YouTube videos and Twitter and you just look at the news on Google News, you'll find a lot of institutions are getting into Bitcoin now, which is why there's a lot of positive sentiment around Bitcoin. Okay, so that is it for the news. How do you guys feel about it? Let me know what you think about these 5 news stories. What do you think about this solo segment? If you do like it, let me know, and then I can do 2 podcasts a week, 1 podcast with a guest and maybe 1 podcast for myself, where I'm just covering like a basic topic and then 5 news items, and we can take it from there. So, as usual, before I end off the show, I've got to plug our website, plug everything else. So, if you're curious about who Amun Tokens is, go to www.amun.com. I am one of the community managers there. Another community manager is David, who's really, really awesome at his job. He always answers questions way before I do on Telegram and Discord. So if you have questions about Amun, questions about anything, you want to talk about crypto, come to our Telegram, come to our Discord. We'd love to have you there, and just to chat, just to talk. And I mean, we're talking people. I'm here talking to you right now. You can email me, crian@amun.com. You can also email us at you can also tweet us at @Amun. Our Amun Tokens Twitter handle is now just AMUN. And we would love to talk to you guys. So thanks for being here, guys. I hope you like this shorter video. I was trying to go for 40 minutes. It's about 38 minutes. And I think once I cut it out, it will be about 37 minutes or so. But next week, we are going to have Kareem Saber on. That is not his real last name, but that is the name that I found on the Amun employee directory. He is another one of the research team. He's going to talk about Chainlink and all the cool things Chainlink is doing. I'm excited to have him on. So if you're a Chainlink fan, if you're a Chainlink holder, and you want to learn more about Chainlink, definitely check us out next week. After that, we're going to have my boss Ronald Anxie on, and he's going to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. He mentioned Luna. It might be Luna, might be something else. And episode 10, we might even have the CEO of 21 Shares and Amun Tokens on, if he has the time. But we'll see. And I appreciate having you guys here and listening and downloading the episodes. I want to thank every one of you for being here. And we will see you guys next week at the same time. Take care.